Step into the ring, it's time to rock the night. Sergeant Slaughter's here, ready for the fight. $1 million man with his gold and his flair. We've been through it all, we've gone everywhere. Wrestle Rock, where legends collide, with no Southern band and Johnny by our side. Tomahawk chops, Samoan drops. We're the podcast that never stops.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Wrestle Rock Podcast Season 7. I'm Nostradaben, and I'm going to host this episode with my partner, Johnny D.
Hey, how's it going today, my friend?
Yeah, very good. And you?
Yes, it's been a long time, my friend. Yeah.
1 month ago.
Yes, we are very busy right now, so it's super great once again that we can have another guest. But just before, do you remember back in the days?
Many years ago.
Yes. There's a lot of there's few wrestling promotion as wrestling international wrestling, hosted by Dino Bravo and of course Gino Britos, and there's another promotions called Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling
In the Maritimes.
yeah and during this period, you know, many talents rode all around these territories, and somebody as it was very different. So I remember, some guys like was very
Special.
afraid. So I'm talking about Abdullah the Butcher and many other person like Missing Link, but one guys was very afraid, and I don't know if you remember the name of Cuban Assassin.
Yeah,
the guys was very afraid, with a big beard and the long hairs, and we have the opportunity to receive in our studio the son of the legendary Cuban Assassin. I'm talking about Cuban Assassin number 2. Give it up for Mr. Richie Acevedo. Hey, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me for today.
It's super great that you accept our invitation, honestly, because I know that you have a very good background and interesting stories about professional wrestling, of course. But one thing also, you are a movie actors, and you have some interesting stories about that. So go ahead with the first question, my friend.
Question. Okay, have you always been a wrestling fan?
Well, I was born because of wrestling. You see, my dad, in the Maritimes for Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling, here where I live in Oak Hill, West Virginia, they had a TV show that aired at a local TV station, and it was called Saturday Night Wrestling.
Okay.
And my dad was booked up here and to wrestle. And one day after he wrestled at Saturday Night Wrestling, he drives down to this little diner called Skyline Drive-In. It's kind of like Arnold's from Happy Days. They bring the food to your car and everything. And my mother, that was her first job, and she happened to be working there.
Okay.
And she comes out, and my dad and my mom meet, and I'm the result 9 months later.
Super cool. That's a wrestling family. That's
Yes.
super cool.
Yes.
And I remember when I check all your background. So you have been you're on your professional wrestling. You're like by your father, of course. And what kind of wrestling coach was your father, Angel?
Well, Dad was kind of a sink or swim kind of guy. Like, you know, he was very old school. He only taught me simple, basic things and didn't really smart me up to the business, as the terminology that we use. And he kind of threw me out there, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, but it was my mentors that was Ron Starr and Leo Burke. Ron Starr was the one who smartened me up.
Okay.
because I guess and listen, Ron Starr don't have to help anybody. I guess he had a soft place in his heart because he was really good friends with my dad. Because Leo Burke was my dad's best friend in wrestling, and
Okay.
Ron
Interesting.
Starr was also good friends with my dad and had a lot of respect. And he told me, what I needed to be doing in the wrestling, to take care of myself and how to smarten up. And then once I started smartening up, then things started falling into place for me as far as wrestling. But my dad was old school. You kind of get drafted in, and even when I work with young talent today, and look, and I don't mean no disrespect to the wrestlers today. You can train and practice all you want all day long, but you learn from performing in front of a live audience. You know what works
Yeah.
and don't work because the
That.
audience won't fail you
Mhm.
at all.
To-
And that's
Totally.
how dad was. That's how dad was.
Yeah. Nobody can beat the good old days.
Yeah, well, it was a different type of wrestling back then. It was a package. See, pro wrestling and sports entertainment are two different things.
Hmm.
Pro wrestling was a package that was presented and delivered as a professional competitive sporting event. So it was seen as a professional sport, and it was based upon grappling holds, submissions, and pinfalls. And we did have what was called spots back in the day, but we called them falsies or false finishes. And today
Hmm.
they call them high spots, but back in my day, a high spot
Yeah.
was basically was a false hope.
Hmm.
And that came in the middle of the match, and then all the high spots or false finishes came at the end. But today, the wrestling adopted the lucha. They mixed a little bit of a Mexican lucha and American
Yeah.
type of wrestling together, but it's more lucha, and I call it American lucha. What wrestling is today, because it's the package of today. Sports entertainment it's a package. It's about being a big show. It's just a mix like a concert mix with Broadway and a lot of gymnastic athletes involved. Back in the day, you wouldn't do that because we want to try to put believability. Today, it's more about kind of being like a Marvel superhero character.
Exactly. Exactly. Compared to the past, that was more fixed on the persona, the gimmick, the
Yeah, the realism.
attitude. Yes. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, okay. And who was your toughest opponent in the Maritimes?
What was it now? Say that one more time.
Who was your toughest opponent in the Maritimes?
Well, I can tell you that's I can sum that up with three people.
Okay.
It was tough. Okay, the legendary Beast was a
Okay.
tough, when I wrestled him, he was in his 70s, and he was
Okay.
and he was very tough even in his old age, his 70s.
Wow.
And the next person would be René Duprée,
Yeah.
and René Duprée was very solid to work with in the ring, and really takes it seriously when you're in the ring with him, and that's because the tradition of his dad's territory there, and and the third one is Kurgan, Giant Kurgan, or the Acadian
Yeah.
Giant, Robert Maé, you
Hmm.
know, uh, and of course any giant you wrestle was strong, but Kurgan, was a
So one
was
of
a
a kind.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, great guy, but doesn't
Yeah.
know his own strength. One time I was pinning him, and he kicks out, and he shows me, pressed me off of him, and I'm going through the between the middle and the top rope, and had to grab the rope because I'm almost getting ready to go onto the floor. And I remember Robert saying, he says to me, he goes, you made that look like I was Superman. And I looked at Robert, I said, who's selling? You legitimately about shot me through the fucking ropes. I had to hold on for dear life. So, I was like, he didn't know his own strength, but those were I respected all three of those guys: Beast, Rene Dupree,
And
Kurgan. Yeah, and listen, the tough ones are the ones I love the most because it's the one that's more real.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. What you're saying.
Okay, have you ever done any tryouts for WWE, WCW, or ECW?
No, I had dealt with agents from all
Okay.
those promotions, but see, people have to remember something too. Like I try to explain to people, when I got into the wrestling business, I broke in 1989, and when I broke in, it was the the territories were still there, but it was the end of the territories and the birth of the indies, which came from outlaw promotions. And so when I left wrestling, because I actually left to go. I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be part of it, and I left temporarily to do some outside jobs and joined the United States Marine Corps. And I got kicked out from the Marine Corps and went back to some side jobs and said, "Screw this! I'm going back to wrestling." And I tell people this. I was like, it changed completely within just that short period of time. I left from being in separate locker rooms and giant arenas, actual arenas, and that filled a lot of people from anywhere from 1,200 up to 5,000 or more, fans. And then all of a sudden I come back to bingo halls and armories, and we're all dressing in the same locker room, and that includes the women. And then all of a sudden, back then you was given the finish, and that's all you knew. You were separated, the heels and babyface, and so you had to work it out there in the ring, and all you had was the finish. But then when I came back, all of a sudden everybody's trying to talk their whole match out from the beginning to the end, and like they come to me, I never changed anything from when I started. I won't talk my match out, and it kind of got people be intimidated by me because I was kind of angry and kind of offended when people come talk to me. You don't trust me, don't get in the ring with me. My job is to make you look good, and by me making you look good, I make myself look good. But if you don't trust me, don't get in the ring with me. So everybody always gets that intimidation about me, and when they meet me, and they're very respectful, but you can tell they're scared to death of me. And the thing I also do is I actually apply wrestling. I get actual holds because for my time period, it's supposed to look like a sporting competition. And a lot of guys I'll be in the ring with, I'll cut them off and I'll just shoot them down into a real quick hold and get them in a hold, and they think I'm stretching them, and I'm not. The hold is a little tight, yes, but like I tell them they asked me, did I do something wrong? And I was like, no. Why would you think you did something wrong? And they said, well, you cut me off and you shot on me, and you start stretching me. I said, well, I wasn't stretching you. I said, I've got you in a hold. The marquee out on the front says pro wrestling, and that's what I was doing, is giving wrestling. You can't just be moving all the time. You got to wrestling match is supposed to be like I'm the maestro. The heel's the maestro. I'm supposed to be taking the fans up, bringing them down, like any concert. Bring them up, bring them down, and you take them all. I'm going, take it home, and that's how a wrestling match is supposed to be. Because the babyface job is to sell, and try to get the emotional effect and connection with the fans.
Really?
And the heel's job is to get you to be mad at him and get ticked off at him. And so when you got a believable babyface underdog and a believable villain, a bad guy, and then all of a sudden you have magic at the end, and then you get a big old pop at the end for the finish, and that's the way it's supposed to be. You're either supposed to get a pop from them cheering the babyface winning, or you're supposed to get the pop of the fans booing the heel because the heel won, and then they were disappointed. And to achieve that result, it takes three people in that ring to make it work. It takes the babyface, it takes the heel, and it takes the referee. All three of those people are very important in that match. But that's my point of view of my time period, and I've always stuck to it. I've never had a bad result outlet. So, and a lot of the people, when they work with me, they get excited at the end of the match because then all of a sudden they're like, well, I didn't do anything. I said, you're not supposed to. The name of the game is not to get hurt. And to make it as believable as possible. And yeah, you can plan your match out, but you're only entertaining yourself. You're not. Yes, some fans will get entertainment out of it, but then when you don't get the desired finish because you couldn't tell the story, because that's what a wrestling match is telling a story. And if the fans get that suspension disbelief, then they believe into that. And like I told them, I said, look, there's a reason why I go into a bar and nobody don't want to mess with me. Because they think that the Cuban Assassin is a real tough guy in that ring. I said, but they're going to mess with you because you look like a cartoon. So if you're going to look like the cartoon, they're going to make jokes about you, right? But if you make them believe in your character, it's a different outcome. And like I said, I don't have that problem you guys have. I don't because even you guys come in and meet me in the locker room, you're intimidated and you're kind of worried. And I'm like, and you bought into my character. more than the fans bought into it. I was like, I'm going to take care of you. The name of the game is be safe, take care of each other. We're putting our
Exactly.
bodies in each other's hands, you know.
Yes, exactly. And during your wrestling career, few doors had opened for you as a movie actor. So I remember you did a documentary called Wrestle Massacre. And can you tell us about your experience in this movie and where you play the main character, because you are on the front page of everything, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah. Well, first of all, Wrestle Massacre is not a documentary. It is a slasher horror type
yeah,
of a
yeah,
comedy
exactly,
type of
yeah.
very very low budget, you know. But my acting came from when I was wrestling in 1999 for the Legends tour for Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling,
Hmm.
and René Duprée was working on a children's French
Yeah, yeah,
television series
yeah.
ever called Lunatics, and then the producer was a fan of my dad, and I was telling Renee, wish you can get the Cuban Assassin. He goes, well, I know his son. He looks just like his dad. And he said, well, can you get him? He said, yeah. Renee told me they wanted me, so I showed up in the Cocan Arena, Cocan, New Brunswick, and met the producer and signed a piece of paper, and they paid me Canadian money there, and then I shot the thing. But that started the whole thing, and that was in '99. But then I didn't want to really be actor because back then I was like, I'm a pro wrestler, not an actor.
Hmm.
And then Kurgan gets into the Hollywood scene from 300, and then one day he calls me up around 2000. I think it was in 2013. He calls me
Okay.
up and he says, asked just to check on me because he's really good friends, and I was kind of a low point in my life and everything. And he said, well, won't you try acting? You did that. And so I was like, well, I'll look into it. And I took acting lessons, and I was like, well, this is a lot like pro wrestling. So I went ahead and started auditioning stuff, and it led me to Wrestle Massacre. And because before Wrestle Massacre, I was on a TV series as a feature background on
Hmm.
WGN called Outsiders,
Yep.
and that got me the role because I was working with Fuzzy Monkey Films and Brad Twigg in a couple of his movies, and that got me the role for Wrestle Massacre and as playing Randy. And I'm also an indie filmmaker of my own with Mountain Man Productions, which you can find on Facebook and follow and like. And but yeah, that's where that led to. And I've been acting for 10 years now, and I've wrestled for
Wow.
35. For 35
Wow.
years, I've wrestled.
Congratulations.
Hmm.
So
And
it's the
yeah, but I retired from wrestling last year
complete.
in November, and I'm still acting. I'm still making my own films. I'm still acting in other stuff.
Wow, wow, wow.
Okay, in your entire wrestling career, can you name us some opponents you've never faced but would like to?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to face Sergeant Slaughter, and
Oh,
I've always wanted to wrestle Hulk Hogan because of the USA and the Cuba thing. Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I, and they were going to bring Dad in. They were going to bring Dad in. Vince
Okay.
McMahon was bringing Dad in for when it was the World Wrestling Federation
Oh,
(WWF),
interesting.
and they were having one house shows. But then that knife fight in that parking lot happened between Bad News Brown or Bad News Allen and my
Yeah.
dad. And they were best friends, and they got into a knife
Okay.
fight. And then my dad called Vince and said he wasn't going to do any more of the shows. And later on, Bad News would get fired or released from
Hmm.
WWF. But they settled their heat back in 2000 when I was up there in Stampede for the Hearts for the rebirth of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I talked to Bad News, and Dad was doing the house shows for the Hearts,
Mhm.
but he wouldn't do TV. And so I told Dad come to TV, and I talked to Bad News, and Dad's like he said, I don't know, we might get into a fight. I said, Dad, I'm there. I'm going to take care of you. Your son. I'm not going to let nothing happen. So he came, and all of a sudden I looked around, and he and Bad News were gone, and I was kind of worried there actually at that
Mhm.
point. And then I remember because they were filming the TV at the Ogden Legion. They was no longer at the Pavilion, so it was at the Ogden Legion then. And then the Ogden Legion had their little bar with the beer and all that over there. So I happened to look over there, and there's Dad and Bad News talking and laughing at the table. Now, Bad News is not really a drinker, but he had a full glass of beer and he just basically just took a sip. And but my dad was drinking beer like crazy because we're beer drinkers, and so we all love beer. My dad, myself, and my son, we all love beer, and we drink a lot of it. And but but yeah, so they made their amends. But I didn't get to answer your question. I dealt with agents, but I never had a tryout or what people would call a
Mhm.
tryout for a because when I started wrestling, it was the territories,
Yeah.
and you had WWF, but you also had the AWA
Mhm.
and Ted
NW.
Turner. Yeah,
Mhm.
Ted Turner had WCW, and you still had the USWA, which was the mixture of World Class and Memphis,
Yes.
and uh, and then you had a couple small territories still here and there in the international scene, and then the rest was all outlaw promotions were just growing to become indies. So my timing was off when I started, and I had dealt with agents, and they were interested in stuff, but I just didn't have anything for that could be marketable because to when WWF became the only company and became WWE, people have to understand it's more than a total package for them. You got to have something that they can uh, sell you. That they got to make you a toy, a figure. They got to make you a video game character. They got to make you something that they can put on a
Yeah.
T-shirt. And if you're not
Yeah.
marketable enough for them, then it's not going to work out. And I never got that opportunity. I wish I would have, but I was only getting older, and the time I was really dealing with them, I was in my 30s at that
Yeah.
time. So, you see, my life expectancy for a career would have only been about 10 years because once you reach your 40s, you're kind of if you're not established, you're kind of past your
Mhm.
time, and look at John Cena. I mean, even he's going through it, but at least he got a big thing in acting in Hollywood. I
Mhm.
mean, he and The Rock and Dave Bautista are the big ones that's doing the mainstream acting. And people always ask me who's the better actor. The better actor to me is Dave Bautista. I think he's the one to be the first wrestler to get an Academy Award of all the wrestlers. But because he takes it serious. I mean, he takes it
Yeah.
real serious. And I met Dave when he was
Okay.
Leviathan from OVW. Yeah, good guy. He had his head in the right place.
Okay.
Um, but as far as opponents, I never got to wrestle Sergeant Slaughter. I would have
Mhm.
loved to do Sergeant Slaughter because one of my favorite matches was when Sergeant Slaughter turned babyface just from Iron Sheik walking. And people, you have to remember this that how that whole concept because Sergeant Slaughter was a heel and
Yeah.
so was Iron Sheik, and
Yeah.
they intentionally kept them from being seen against each other. And then all of a sudden, Iron Sheik was walking from the ring, and Sergeant Slaughter's walking towards the ring, and this altercation is in the one walkway to the locker room, and Sergeant Slaughter wasn't going to let the Iron Sheik pass, and the fans was like going crazy because even though Sergeant Slaughter's a heel, but he's a U.S. Marine playing the U.S. Marine, and was he's like taking an insult to this Iron Sheik, uh, saying Iran number one, USA Hawk 2E and all that, and then and that's what started the feud between Iron Sheik and just that one altercation. Sergeant Slaughter, it didn't have to do anything, just that interaction from that walking in and out of the ring
Mhm.
changed it and made it one of the best feuds I ever saw, and a bloody one too between them two. And I mean that was after Iron Sheik was the world champion and made Hulk Hogan, a household
Yes.
name. So I mean, Sergeant Slaughter was definitely one of those people I would have loved to get in the ring with. I would have loved to let him beat me up, uh, and I would have loved to have been able to get in the ring with Hulk Hogan. Um, to same thing USA, but I did
Yes.
get close because
Mhm.
one of my favorite matches is me and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and so I did get to have that, and it was a lot of fun working with Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Wow. And uh, during your period with AXA Jim Duggan, it was for what kind of promotion?
It was all indies back then. The first time we wrestled each other was for a group in Michigan called
Okay.
Championship International Wrestling (CIW). And
Okay.
then the second time, the next two times I would wrestle him would be in Lancaster, Ohio, for another promotion down there. I
Nice.
can't remember. I think it was Ohio Championship Wrestling, or maybe one of those. But and I really wasn't one of the matches. I really wasn't supposed to wrestle him. It was more or less Hacksaw. When the promoter was like, okay, you're working him, and Hacksaw said, no, you got it wrong, and I'm working the Cuban. And then we're all looking at each other, and the promoter said, well, you heard he's working the Cuban tonight, so you're working him. So it's like, and Hacksaw didn't, Hacksaw's like, the USA thing always works for me, and I thanked him for that, and
Ah,
because
cool.
he got me a good payday out of that, because my payday went up, and then next thing you know, I had he brought me back again in a tag match with Hacksaw. So, and but Hacksaw, great guy. I really, phenomenal guy, and he's easy to
Easy
work
to
with
work.
because he's all
All right.
USA. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are now in the final segment, and as usual, we'll give you a few names and just tell us in a few words about each of one, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
the first one was the late Emile Dupré.
Emile Dupree is who I started for, and last time I worked for his son René and him was in 2014. But Emile Dupree was a different type of promoter, but he was very old school, kept real
Mhm.
kayfabe in the business. I had nothing but respect for Emile Dupree. To me, he's a wrestler that don't get much credit, but and a promoter. He did well in the Maritimes, and he created something people still remember to this day.
All right. The second one, Stan Hansen.
Probably one of the toughest men in pro wrestling. Another underrated wrestler, but a wrestler that would do business in a different way because he was from a different time period. But nice guy. He's a smart man, and he didn't have to do a whole lot wrestling because he was a big Texan, and he was really tough. There was no fake about him. So I mean,
Of course.
a lot of great admiration for Stan Delariat Hansen.
The third one, Bret Hart.
The greatest technical wrestler ever. Bret Hart's first match was with my dad in Stampede Wrestling.
Wow.
Okay, and he was a referee originally for his dad, and
Yeah, I remember
yeah, yeah,
he sold tickets for
yeah,
the Stampede Wrestling, and
mm,
he driving the
yeah,
bus
yeah.
for the
They all
wrestling
did it.
talents.
Yeah, they all did it. The whole family, and when I was there in Stampede, the whole family, the grandkid, all of them. When I was there in 2000, Natalia wasn't wrestling, but T.J. Wilson was, which him better as Tyson Kidd,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he kind of fashioned himself after the Dynamite Kid in a way. And then you
Mhm.
had Harry, which is better as David Boy Smith Jr., and they were the ones that were wrestling. Natalia was there, but she
Yeah.
wasn't wrestling then. I mean, I got to work with René Duprée in the Maritimes. Then I got to go over to Calgary and work with the Hart family. Then I went to Puerto Rico the next year and worked
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with Carlito and his
Mhm.
brother Eddie, which him as Primo,
Mhm.
and their sister Stacy was there. So I got to work for those people, and it was an experience on all of them. And they all became great wrestlers and stars.
And what you were saying just before, do you think the fact that you can traveling all around the world, it's one of your best accomplishment of your wrestling career?
I think it's the adventure, and to me, being a pro wrestler is taking a journey, and that
Yeah,
you're taking a journey, and you're having the experience and everything of a lifetime. So you get to see the world, which is great. It's also very dangerous, constantly traveling like wrestlers do. That's
yeah,
the
of
danger. That's
course.
actually the dangerous part of it.
Hmm.
And then but when you get to go there in that ring and you get to perform in front of the live audience, and there's nothing better than being in front of a live audience and getting them eating out of your hands and making them either cheer you or boo you. And I mean, you walk out from that big after your night match, and you walk out and that big pop happen and everything. Then you've done your job, and and then everybody has a good time afterwards.
All right. So, as usual, my partner Benoit, Nostradamus Ben. It's all about the French prophet, and that's why
Yes,
he had his nickname. He tried to predict the future of our guests. So, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, Mr. Acevedo, thank you so much for the interview. It was an honor, a pleasure.
thank you. And just so you know, I study and research into all things mysterism because I had a lot of experiences. I know all about Michel de Nostradamus, Nostradamus very well.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
and I do a little bit of remote viewing myself, just so you
wow.
know. So, but yeah. So, what's your prediction?
You remember the movie hosted by Orson Welles?
The
The Man
War of
Who
the
Saw
Worlds.
Tomorrow?
Oh, the Man Who Saw Tomorrow is a documentary. Yes, one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Yes, yes, and Orson Welles was also the one who caused panic with the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, which allowed the government in America to
Oh,
understand
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
how
I
they can
remember that.
use media and Hollywood entertainment as a way to do what's called predictive programming on the American citizens and the world and the
Of
world.
course. Okay, my prediction. You told us that you're an actor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you could play in a movie or a documentary. You could play Che Guevara or Fidel Castro.
You know, yeah, the Cuban Assassin character is based upon Fidel Castro and the Trevera there in Cuba. It's a combination of both of them. That's where the
yeah.
assassin comes from, Trevera, and of course, Dad looked a lot like Fidel Castro, which is why they call him the Cuban Assassin. Because Dad was born in Puerto Rico and raised in Puerto Rico, and our
Okay,
last name Acevedo is actually Portuguese.
Okay.
So
Portuguese.
you know, and yeah, I could play Fidel, and stay tuned because that could quite possibly happen later down the road.
All right.
Why not?
So thank you so much for your 30 minutes, your
Thank
generous
you.
time. It was an honor that we can learn a lot of interesting stories about acting and your wrestling career. Such a great moments all together. So we wish you all the best for the future and have
For
a
the
great
future.
one. Yes. So thank you so much and have a great one, my
Thank you.
friend.
Thank you
Goodbye.
for having me, and au revoir.
Step into the ring, it's time to rock the night. Sergeant Slaughter's here, ready for the fight. $1 million man